When we have an existing data frame, there are going to be times when we want to add a new column. There are two primary ways to go about this, which we will explore. If the data frame already exists, then we can pass it a new column name to an existing data frame object using the equal sign. Pandas is smart enough to pick up that this column is not already in the data frame, so it will glue it on at the end. You need to be careful that this column name doesn't already exist, or else it will be overwritten with the new column values. But basically, we are just using the equal syntax to assign a column that doesn't exist, and Pandas will automatically generate the new column. But what we still need to add to that column is some type of value. So again, let's get a slimmed down version, taking a random 20 sample. And again, my slim, since it's random, is going to be different than yours. But this is the data frame we are working with. Now, these are all season totals. So let's say we want to create a new column name with points per game. We could pass in 0 as the default value for every row to start if we wanted. So here, to create a new column, we are taking the brackets and we are just going to create the new column name. Now we can pass in PPG, and since it doesn't already exist, Pandas will be smart enough to glue it on at the end. And again, we want to give it a value, which at this point to start, let's just give it 0 for every one. So we run this, and if we look at our data frame again, you'll notice we have a points per game column, and every value is 0. But rather than stuffing the columns with zeros, we could drop in the real number by using other columns to calculate the value. If we know the total points scored and total games played, then we create a new column with the points per game. Now, since it already exists, it is going to override the PPG column we just created. And let's say points per game is equal to total points divided by games played, which is GP. And let's put this in bracket. And let's also round this to 1. And if we run this, instead of the zeros, we're going to see the points per game become the total points divided by the games played. So we run this. And again, let's look at our data frame. And there we have a new column with the points per game. Now, if PPG didn't already exist, it would have glued it on at the end with these numbers rather than going through that 0 the first time around. You'll notice that Pandas added the column onto the end, which we can see when printing our data frame. Pretty neat, huh? We will do this frequently when we get into our projection model. Later on, we will also focus more on how to add a new column after running data through a function. Now, the other way to add a column is with the insert method. The insert method takes various parameters like location and column name as loc and col, as well as value, which is the value or values we want to pass in. There are two things to remember here. The loc is just like the index location but used for the columns. This means it starts at 0 and counts up. Whatever column location number you choose, it will be inserted to the right of it. The insert method also permanently modifies the data frame, so no in-place parameter is passed, which we will look into more detail later. And I think it's kind of funny noticing Nene is just Nene. All right, so if we took our data frame and we ran the insert method, it's a dot notation, and again, the first number that it takes is the location, so let's pass it to the right of the fourth column since it starts at 0. The column we want to pass in will say equal to the league, and the value we'll want to add in for each of the league is the NBA. The value we pass can be a single value or even a new series. But let's run this. And again, let's look at our data frame. And again, we see it was passed to the right of the third column and league, and here we have the MBA for all of them. Now, Pandas also provides multiple ways to delete specific column. To flat out delete a column, we can use the delete command, which is del. To do so, we pass the del command, del, followed by the data frame and column name we want to delete. So let's say we wanted to delete the points per game column we just ran. If we run this and we go and inspect our data frame again, we'll notice the points per game is no longer there. Depending on the number of columns in our data frame, sometimes it is just easiest to drop a column. We do this using the drop method. Within the method, we pass the column name as well as the axis parameter. The axis parameter we are passing says it's a column. Note that 0 is for rows and 1 is for columns. So to drop that new league column, we could go df, and we call the drop method, and then we pass the column name we want to drop, and the axis, again, 0 would be for rows, 1 for columns, and we are just going to save this to a new data frame. And if we look at our new data frame, we see that the league column is no longer there. Another roundabout way that I often use to delete a column is to create a new data frame where I only select the columns that I want to use. This helps me keep the original data frame intact in case I make a mistake or need to go back and reference it again. So to do this, we give the new data frame variable a name and use our selecting format that we learned in the previous section to take only the columns we want. Remember to use the double brackets when selecting. Or we could also pass a Python list if we prefer. So if we were to just kind of write this out, it would be the new df is equal to the old df with the columns in double brackets, and this would be column 1, column 2, and column 3. So in our case, let's say we wanted to create a rebound data frame, and this would be equal to our old data frame, which in this case, we would want the player name column to give us some context. And we'll look at the OREB column and the DREB column for offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. So we run this, and then we look at our rebound data frame, and voila. Again, we basically just selected the columns we wanted from the original data frame and drop them into a new rebound data frame. A similar method to this is to use filtering, which we will explore more in a coming section.